Hi, my name is Rudi Liebenberg. I'm the executive chef of the Mount Nelson Hotel, as well as the Planet Restaurant. The process started about 4 or 5 years ago when we started getting produce that was really bad. And we noticed that, it was deteriorating by the week. So we needed to do something drastically. So I started looking at vegetable farmers that can grow vegetables for us directly, and cut out the middleman. Because essentially what they were doing, they were growing vegetables, picking them too early, and then by the time we're getting them, they're not at their prime. So the first process, obviously I've got 1 or 2 people in Porterville that grows fantastic stuff, all the smaller, finer things, and then I've got a gentleman that we approached by the name of Eric at the back end of Spear, who grows organic vegetables, the most beautiful vegetables, and obviously it's picked at exactly the right time, at its prime. So it gets picked in the morning and we have it in the afternoon. And that is what I was looking for. And essentially that took quite a while. And even saying that, I still don't have enough vegetables to service just even my restaurant. And it's becoming easier because now we can kind of say, this is what I want, and we think a little bit further ahead and we plan a little bit further ahead. So it's not, I wanted to get away from where I was the one dictating the menu. The menu needed to be dictated by the farmer, by the climate, by the weather, and what was available out there. So you're not buying out of season. We still make a lot of mistakes, but essentially we're moving in the right direction. Over the last 5 years, we've shortened the menu considerably. I couldn't do it overnight, otherwise people would react. So very slowly, and now we're in the process where we almost change the menu every 3rd day, based on what we can get. Technology is great, so he just sends me an email at the beginning of the week. He says, the carrots are going to be ready, the cauliflower is going to be ready, the broccoli is going to be ready. With that, he will tell me, the broccoli is not, they're not big florets, they're small ones. And then within your mind, I can maybe be creative and do something a little bit different on the plate. So we would buy whatever he has available. So if he says to me, he's got 20 kilos of carrot that are ready now, that's what we're going to take. If the cauliflowers are small little florets and they're not going to grow any further, we'll take them as is. And that's how it's intended to be, and that's how we'll put it on the plate then. So it's not a question of me necessarily just phoning. I try and use what he has got available for me. Which makes it a little bit more challenging and makes it a little more fun as well. We've got a supplier that it's called Abalimi Bezakaya, which is a farm in Khayelitsha Township that gives us, like you'd buy a box of vegetables that you'd given. We form part of the scheme as well, where they send us 3 or 4 boxes a week, and we base one of our dishes purely on what they give us that is grown in Khayelitsha. And all of that is 100% organic. So this changes every week. I mean, we would have kale, spinach, a bit of broccoli, and a bit of broad beans. So we do, the one vegetable dish would be based purely on that. And so we are quite creative. The kitchen staff has found it quite difficult to adapt because their mindset all of a sudden had to change. Now, instead of them dictating, I tell them, this is what you have available, be creative. So what do we create? Where do we go from here? Because they would like to be creative maybe today with tomatoes, but tomatoes are not in season right now. And every menu suggestion they give me has got tomato on it. And you keep on rejecting it, and eventually, they don't quite understand. But we've moved quite a long way in the last 4 years. It can be done, that you don't have to buy what the market dictates. The farmer needs to dictate. Some chefs are fortunate enough to have vegetable patches on the farms where they work, or wine farms. 1 or 2 of them have started buying from Eric as well. A lot of them buy from the farmers in Porterville. We've just found that, the vegetable at the end of the day tastes so much better than a bought item at the market that is very old already. So you're getting the sense of the true character of an item, and that's what most of them are doing it. Obviously, a lot of chefs are still watching that bottom line, which becomes a bit of a challenge because you have to weigh up the scales. Do I only want to serve good food, or am I prepared to justify that I'm going to sell something that is cheap and try and be creative around that? chefs become creative, over creative, with bad ingredients, and where we need to become creative, doing as little as possible to something with good ingredients. It's quite interesting. The international clientele, especially from Europe, not so much. I'm talking France, Germany, Spain. Those clients have been great because a lot of those same processes have been introduced in Europe. A lot of South Africans, sometimes they have the attitude, you know what, I don't really care, it's a nice story, and I'll give you my steak. But you know what, a lot of people are starting to understand, but it's a long process and it's slow. People don't necessarily like being told what they're allowed to eat and what they're not allowed to eat. They still think that they can have a bigger range to pick from or to choose from, which makes it difficult. We used to run a vegetarian menu. I don't run a vegetarian menu purely like I used to, because we used to do a lot of vegan food. We've got a vegetarian menu that we run every single day, which we change inside the kitchen. The first thing we started doing is buying chickens that were truly free range. And that, you know, that becomes very expensive because all of a sudden you buy a chicken that costs twice as much as you normally would pay. And the same goes for the lamb, same goes for the beef, and the same goes for the eggs. If you cook a chicken breast at home, and this is a quality issue, they brine it so much that you think it's the most amazing chicken breast you've ever had. And when you come to this restaurant, there's no ways that chicken breast can taste the same. It's more chewy, it's a little bit tougher. And then you have a question, guests say to you, you know what, but why is that? Well, I can cook a chicken breast better than you. And how do you justify that? And that's the battle you have sometimes, is that we buy a better quality product. We know there's no genetically modified feed in there. We know that it comes from organic source. We know it's free range. But the price, people don't quite understand because they don't understand the process. They only see a packet when it comes to the supermarket and what it looks like when they buy it. They never see how that chicken was raised before the time. They never see in the conditions it lived. And that is the biggest issue. People are too far removed from where the food comes from. And what we've done now is we know the farmers. So I know the guy that runs around and pulls all the cattle together. We know them personally. We know the guy that physically takes the egg from the egg mobile and puts it into a tray. And that makes quite a big difference when you know where something comes from. And that's a message we're trying to get over to the guest, is that that process has become very transparent. And we've made a conscious decision as to where it comes from and the conditions it's raised or grown. And that makes a big difference in terms of what we serve. So we feel connected to what we serve on a plate. The two dishes I've done today is the one is a marron dish. Obviously not traditionally from South Africa, but it's a freshwater, can call it, it's more like a crayfish. Comes from Australia. It's farmed in South Africa, just gently poached. And what we do is we serve a bit of yogurt with it, because we like the flavor of a clean, fresh yogurt. It's a goat's milk yogurt. And then we've got a bit of spinach, dune spinach on there, a bit of sierkies, and then a sour fig dressing to go with that. And then the springbok dish is one that's been on the menu for 4 years. A little bit of pomegranate and beetroot glaze on it, then just a little bit of biltong dust. And then we've got a braised springbok element as well, that's in a little parcel, a raw beetroot salad and a carrot puree.